They said no woman could march through mud, bleed in trenches, or lift the weight of war upon her shoulders. Yet history, strangely selective, often blind, forgot one who did. Buried in silence, her story was written, not in ink, but in sweat, smoke, and scars. She was called Thomas by her brothers in arms. But in truth, Thomas never existed. Beneath the uniform, beneath the dirt and grime of battle, there beat the heart of a woman who had sworn to fight for a country that would never let her wear its colors openly. It began on a frosty dawn, the kind of morning where the mist clings to rifles and men's breath rises like ghosts. The recruiters had lined them up, inspecting every hopeful face, every calloused hand. Among them stood someone who looked thinner than most, eyes sharp and defiant. When asked her name, she answered with a steady voice, Thomas Gray. Her chest tightened as the officer stamped approval on the papers. That single moment carved a line she could never cross back. Thomas became a soldier. No, she became one. The early weeks were brutal. Barracks smelled of sweat and unwashed uniforms, laughter always coarse, suspicion never far. Every cough, every moment of changing clothes, every careless gesture was a risk. But she learned to move with the others, to lower her voice, to laugh at their jokes, even when they cut deep. She bound her chest tight at night, her ribs aching, and kept her hair cropped close, unevenly hacked with a blade. Each day was a performance, each breath a gamble. But war leaves little room for hesitation. When the first shots thundered across the field, when the ground shook and the sky cracked open with cannon fire, there was no time to think of disguise. There was only survival. She ran with her company, musket clutched tight, mud splashing her boots, heart hammering in a rhythm faster than any drumbeat. The man beside her fell screaming, blood spraying across her sleeve. She did not flinch. She fired, reloaded, fired again. In that chaos, she was not a man, not a woman, just a soldier. Weeks stretched into months. Battles claimed comrades faster than names could be remembered. She grew leaner, harder, her hands blistered and blackened with powder burns. The men around her called her fearless. They never guessed that the courage they admired was born not only of loyalty to the flag, but also the desperate will to keep her secret. Then came the night of the ambush. The company had been ordered to hold a ravine, its edges swallowed by darkness. Rain fell in sheets, drowning torches, turning the earth into a sucking mire. The enemy struck without warning. Gunfire flashed, steel clashed, men shouted and cursed. She fought with ferocity that startled even her comrades, lunging with bayonet, dragging a wounded boy to cover, firing until the barrel smoked. And then, a blade found her side. She staggered, clutching her ribs. Pain like fire spread through her body. Her comrades rushed to her aid, dragging her behind the broken cart that served as shelter. In the frantic glow of a lantern, the medic tore at her uniform to reach the wound. What he uncovered was not Thomas. The air went still. The men stared. The sound of battle dulled in their ears, as if muffled by disbelief. The soldier they had bled beside, the one who had carried their rations, lifted their spirits, and fought shoulder to shoulder, was not the man they thought. She was a woman, bleeding out in the mud. Shock turned to silence, silence to murmurs. The medic worked quickly, pressing cloth to the wound, but his hands trembled. Someone muttered a prayer, someone else spat, cursing the deception. Yet most only watched with wide, haunted eyes. They had seen her fight. They had seen her save them. Could they call her a fraud, when she had proven herself 10 times over? She survived the wound, though barely. Weeks in a makeshift hospital tent left her drifting in fever. When she opened her eyes, it was not relief she saw on the officers' faces. It was judgment. The army had no place for women. Her service, her sacrifice, her courage, all were tainted in their eyes by the disguise she had worn. The commendation she deserved was denied. Her name was struck from the rolls. Officially, Thomas Gray was dead. But she was not. She walked away from the war limping, scarred inside and out. Villages she passed knew nothing of her. History books would never record her deeds. She became a ghost in her own time, living quietly, carrying the memories of those who never came home. Sometimes she traced the lines of her scar and remembered the faces of men who had called her brother. And yet, though forgotten, she left an invisible mark. For years, whispers traveled from one veteran to another, stories of a soldier who was not what he seemed. They spoke with awe, not mockery. Around firesides and in taverns, her legend flickered like embers, too faint to catch the eye of historians, but too stubborn to die completely. Decades later, a dusty journal was found among an old trunk. Its pages, scrawled in a steady but guarded hand, told of battles and secrets, of nights spent binding her chest and mornings waking to the sound of drums. It ended with a line that read, "I fought not as a woman, not as a man, but as a soldier, because when your country calls, what else can you be?" That trunk was her voice breaking through time's silence. The world had forgotten her, but the truth lingered, waiting to be heard. She was the soldier who wore two faces, who carried a nation's burden under a false name, who proved that courage knows nothing of gender. Her story is not written on monuments or etched into marble. It breathes in the unspoken truth that countless women like her were warriors hidden in plain sight. So when we speak of bravery, let us not speak only of the names carved into stone. Let us remember the nameless, the silenced, the ones who fought in shadows. Among them was a woman soldier, forgotten by history, but not by the earth that drank her blood, nor by the freedom she helped win. And maybe, just maybe, by us, who now know her tale.